Hi, I'm Kara, mom of 3, pediatric sleep expert, certified parenting coach, and founder of Well Rested Mama. Welcome to the Unswaddled podcast. Tune in every other week as we chat about baby and toddler sleep solutions, overcoming parenting challenges, and all things messy motherhood. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Well Rested Mama Unswaddled. This week, we're talking about holiday travel, all the do's, all the don'ts, and just how to basically navigate this when you're, forced into those situations that we can't do anything about. We all know that when it comes to travel, things can just be a little bit difficult, right? Like you're off schedule or there's just so many variables coming into play that you can't really control. So figuring out how to get through all of that is going to make it a lot easier for you. For us specifically, just travel in general, Jeff and I, we were just very strategic when it came to when are we going? Where are we going? What is the situation going to be like when we get there, right? Like trying to really identify what can we control and conquer those things, right? But also identify what we can't control and just kind of figure out how we're going to let it go and how we're going to navigate the days and the nights during those situations that we don't have control of. So the same thing's going to go for holiday. And holiday makes it a little bit harder because unless you are personally hosting that holiday, it's all on someone else's calendar, right? Like they're choosing the day, they're choosing the time, they're choosing the event, right? Is it a meal? Is it just a party? Is it a come and go, right? Is it something super structured? Is it something just like fun and easygoing to where you're not feeling a lot of pressure? That all has a lot to do with it. So we really want to take a step back and realize, what can we do? We're going to break that all down, go through it all. And at the end of this episode, I want you guys to feel a sense of control going into the holiday and a little bit less stress, just knowing that it is what it is. Everything is going to be just fine. And top priority, I want you to enjoy yourself and I want your kids to enjoy themselves as well. Just to kind of give you guys like a little bit of background of our holiday situation. When I found out that I was pregnant with Carter, I was very clear and very strong opinion regarding Christmas, especially that we were not going to be traveling. Okay. I was not going to be the parent that packed up Santa. I was not going to be shipping gifts to and from, trying to navigate the holiday magic with, seeing everyone in our family and everything like that. I knew that that's how I wanted to live my life as a parent. I have had friends growing up that their parents packed everything, and I just kind of have seen all that, and I don't want any part of it. So, that's a way that I grew up. We grew up with Christmas at home. There was no, leaving and like getting on an airplane or anything like that. So I just knew that's what I wanted for my kids and I wasn't doing it. And that was the bottom line. So I personally set those boundaries very early, mainly for my side of the family, just because they are on the East Coast, which is drivable, right? Like we're talking 3-4 hours. But when you have a little baby and you're trying to navigate Santa and everything like that, I just kind of felt that I had an open door. If you wanted to come see us, that was great. But my parents were also really good at accepting those boundaries. And we planned Christmas different like weekends, right? So whenever we wanted to celebrate that holiday with that side of the family, my mom made that happen. It just wasn't on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Now, they are a little bit older, okay? So that's kind of where I started. I planted that seed. We were very adamant on keeping that tradition for our family. Now that our kids are a little bit older, after we do our Christmas morning and presents are open, we've had breakfast, we do get in the car and we travel to that side of the state to see everybody. But again, that transition happened when I felt ready to make that transition and I felt like my kids could handle it. And I still made both happen. I was home for Santa, but then I was also able to see them for Christmas dinner. So that's worked out perfectly. So if, my biggest piece of advice to everyone is just create your traditions, set those boundaries, and don't be afraid to like offend anybody. And I always try to say like, and this is actually straight from the mouth of my mother-in-law, like they had their Christmas is, right? And she even said, like, we've had our Mother's Day and everything like that. So, like, you guys plan what you want to do, and then we will plan around that. And I think that's so important. And obviously, not every family is like that. My mom's the same way. She has never forced holidays on us, but we've been able to navigate and figure out how to kind of make each side work. So I think that figuring out what works best for you guys, I think it's okay to say, you know what, this is what we're going to do this year, and kind of start to put that focus on you and your kids as opposed to try and please everybody else. If you are in a situation where, let's say, you love traveling for the holidays, okay, like there's obviously two sides, right? Like not everyone has to feel the same way. So if you are a family that does, do Christmas morning outside of your home, you can navigate that, okay? You can plan around that and you can figure out what works best for you in that situation. When it comes to family travel, I always try, and this goes for even outside of the holidays, you want to plan as best you can when it comes to traveling around that daytime sleep, because ultimately, unless you're going somewhere super far, you will be somewhere by bedtime, okay? So, navigating the first half of that day, when are you leaving? Are you driving? Are you flying? Are you able to get a nap in before you leave? Is your baby young enough to where they're going to sleep in the car? Those are all ways that you can kind of manipulate the day and say, you know what? We're going to get there at this time because it's going to be best if, Carter takes his first nap at home, we feed him, then we get in the car. Okay. So, you're kind of planning around meals, number one, and naps the best as you can. The naps is going to be something that you have to really go into knowing, like, this might not work, okay? But you always have that bedtime to fall back on. And I promise, a day of travel and choppy naps is not going to make or break your holiday. One thing that you do want to make sure of is that you are prioritizing the nutrition throughout the day, because otherwise, you're pushing nutrients into the nighttime. And that's what we want to avoid, especially for those little ones. So the more that you can focus on ensuring, regardless of what's happening with that daytime sleep, that they're eating at their scheduled times, that is going to go a long way when it comes to that first night in a new environment. Now, when it comes to that first night in the new environment, I want you to have very low expectations, unless it's somewhere that they're used to being, right? Like grandma's house. Let's say they sleep over there all the time. Okay. You don't really have anything to worry about. If you're in a new situation where you're going to be getting somewhere, setting up a pack and play or a mini crib or air mattresses or whatever that's going to look like for you, you want to just make sure that you have everything in place that is going to set your baby up for success when it comes to that first night, which, again, low expectations, because that initial bedtime can be difficult based on how did the naps go during that, during the day, right? While you were driving, maybe you anticipated baby was going to sleep the whole time and they were eyes wide open the entire car ride. That is going to be a situation where bedtime might be a little bit more difficult, right? We all know an overtired baby can fight bedtime. And if that's happening in combination with a brand new sleep environment, you might see a little pushback there. But at the end of the day, if your baby has always been an independent sleeper, you just have to give them that time, kind of know that it's going to take them a little bit more time, but give them a little bit of grace and allow them to work through that period so that they're able to fall asleep. When it comes to where the baby is sleeping, this is something that we can kind of take a little bit control over in a sense. You might not have, their own bedroom, okay, which is fine, but you do want to be prepared in the aspect of, do they have their own sleep space? Okay. If your baby sleeps in a crib every day at home and you go on vacation and all of a sudden you decide that you're just going to have them in bed with you, okay, that's not really going to work, right? Baby's not going to know what to expect. No one's going to sleep. And then you're also kind of like getting into that zone of interrupting that independent sleep. So really making sure baby has their own sleep space. If they don't have their own room, you're most likely not going to bed at the same time as them. So that's where you're treating that room as their baby's room. And then once you guys go to bed, obviously everyone's in there. And in a room sharing situation like that, it's important that they can't see you, okay? Because we all know that your baby's going to wake up in the middle of the night. They're going to look around, and we don't want them to necessarily identify, or their brain to be like, oh yeah, I'm in a new, sleep space, or, oh yeah, mom's right there. I can see her on the bed. So the darker that room is, the better they're going to be able to put themselves back to sleep during that time, the easier that initial bedtime is going to be. And it's just going to make the overall experience easier for you as the parent. So kind of taking a step back and think, okay, where are we going to be sleeping? Does that person have blackout curtains, or does that hotel have a space for the pack and play? Do I need to put baby in the bathroom? Is there a walk-in closet? Full disclosure, I've put a baby in a pantry before. Like, whatever you need to do to make that sleep space happen, don't be afraid to ask them. Ask the person in the house you're going to, hey, do you guys have a walk-in closet? Or, hey, is your room dark? Can you send me a picture of the room that we're going to be sleeping in? Because if it's not, then like, okay, I need to bring some things with me. I need to be able to darken that room so that my baby can sleep, so that I'm able to enjoy my night and everything like that. And when it comes to darkening the room, there are so many options. I mean, the options are endless. Okay. You can go as simple as black trash bags and use painter's tape on the windows in the bedroom. You can do tinfoil with painter's tape. Those are like two things that most people already have in their home. Or if you're more prepared, you have sleep out curtains, right? The portable ones that suction onto the windows, or you have a slumber pod and you're able to bring that, which is my personal favorite. My kids all still have slumber pods, and they're 9, 7, and 5. Okay. It just gives them a little space for them. The air mattress fits inside. At this point, they think it's cool. So, it just depends on like, how much are you bringing with you? How are you getting there? Are you able to bring a slumber pod? Great. If not, you don't have one, pack some black trash bags. They fold up this big. You whip them out. The person might think that you're insane, but does that matter? Because they're not getting up with your baby in the middle of the night. So all of those are an option. They're all simple, easy solutions to just making sure that you are, once again, setting your baby up for success when it comes to that first night in someone else's home or in a hotel in a sleep environment that they're not used to. Another thing that I think it's important to touch on during travel and holidays and just being outside of your home are naps on the go. Okay. When it comes to your little one's sleep, the nighttime sleep is so impacted by that daytime sleep. And of course, you're on vacation or you're on someone else's schedule, things are going to be weird. Naps are not going to be happening at every single time that baby's used to in their crib. Okay. It's just unrealistic. And I truly want you going into the holiday knowing that those aren't going to happen. And it's okay that they're not going to happen. But what I want you to do is really understand what you're supposed to do when they're not happening, so that you are not causing any huge waves when it comes to that nighttime sleep. If you go into it expecting everything to be perfect, I promise you, you are not only going to ruin the holiday for yourself, you're going to ruin it for everyone around you. And by everyone around you, I mean a grandparent, a great grandparent, an aunt or uncle that is just dying to hold your baby during nap time. And I will tell you that it is okay. If your baby is sleeping, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if someone's holding them. It doesn't matter if they're in the car. It doesn't matter if they're in a carrier or a stroller. Any nap is good. Okay. And that is, again, going to avoid that overtiredness before bed, which is going to save your nighttime sleep. So let's talk about wake windows for a second. Now, obviously, naps on the go are not going to be the nap length that you are used to, no matter what. Every baby goes through a sleep cycle. Okay. Sleep cycles mature around like 7 or 8 weeks. So you're talking little bitty babies and up. Okay. They're waking every 40 to 50 minutes. And when that's happening, it could take them up to 20 minutes to fall back into that next sleep cycle, which is where you get that like longer nap. And if that sleep cycle shift isn't happening, that long nap isn't happening. So if you are at, a breakfast, I don't know, a brunch or Christmas or seeing Santa or whatever you're doing, that's during a nap and someone's holding them or they're in the stroller, they're most likely not going to be able to make it into that second sleep cycle. Okay. Because that transition period is during the day. There's people around, there's sound, there might be music, like who knows? Once they're up, they're probably going to stay up. So at that point, that is where you're navigating the rest of the day. Okay. What is that full wake window for your baby? And that is what you're going to kind of like base your entire day off of, okay? Full wake windows can only happen after long naps. And one sleep cycle is not long enough of a nap for your baby to handle that full wake window. So this is where you're shortening that next wake window. You're subtracting 30 minutes. And that's when you know, like, okay, they didn't sleep 2 hours, but they slept 45 minutes. So I know that if the full wake window is 2 hours, their next nap has to start at that 1.5 hour mark. And that is just going to help avoid that overtiredness, which is going to help them take that second nap. And again, that second nap might not be a long nap, or maybe it will. Maybe you're home by that second nap and they can get that longer nap in, which is amazing. But that rule is going to apply all the way to bedtime. And as long as you're kind of playing that repetitive role right there, you're avoiding overtiredness and it's not going to affect the nighttime sleep, which is your ultimate goal. And if you think that there's a day that you are going to be gone most of the day, try to like maybe prioritize the morning nap, right? Like don't start your day on the go until after that first nap. If you're a toddler mama, just skip the nap, okay? I know that that sounds crazy coming from me, but skipping the nap, they will be able to power through. I promise you, especially with all the craziness that's happening, all the new people that they're seeing, all the holiday stuff that's going on. Skip that nap and don't be afraid to do bedtime at 6 o'clock. If a 6 o'clock bedtime doesn't work for you and you're like, oh my gosh, that's what time Christmas dinner is at, whatever, do a short cat nap in the afternoon, or they might fall asleep in the car. But those like toddlers, you're just going to have to go with the flow and think like, okay, they're losing their minds. They have to take a nap. Or you know what? They seem fine. I'm just going to put them to bed early and enjoy a glass of wine after. Speaking of dinners, I feel like this is where the anxiety can set in the most, especially if you are in a situation where you have a very strong, opinionated person on the other side of you saying, like, dinner's at 7, right? Which is great for everybody except people that have small kids. Okay. Like a 7 o'clock dinner, it's like, I literally want to write back. Are you trying to ruin like your dinner? Because I can tell you my kids will be losing their shit by that point. And I will tell you, I have showed up without my kids before because I'm not trying to ruin dinner for myself or for other people. And I think that that took one time for people to realize, like, oh, they're not going to bring their kids if dinner's not at 5 o'clock. And guess who they want to see more than you? The kids. And although that might seem like a bold move, like a lot of people are like, oh gosh, like I would never do that. Like, that's fine. You don't have to do that. But you can if you want. But I do also think like just communicating with people and being like, hey, 7 o'clock doesn't really work for us. I don't want you to change your plans, but I'm just letting you know, like we might leave early or we might come late or we might get a sitter, whatever it may be. You are allowed to kind of have opinions on that and voice them and just take control and say, you know what, this isn't going to work for us. Like that does not work for us. And I'm really sorry, but that's it. Like, end of story. And you're going to find yourself in this position year after year. Okay. Until your kids are old enough to like party till 10 p.m., like, you're just going to be stuck in this position. So if people around you aren't accommodating that, that's okay. But just go into it knowing like we might miss a few things or, or start hosting. That's what I do. I started hosting Christmas Eve. It was something that, Jeff and I like hosting. That's just, we have a bigger home and it's just easier for a lot of people to be at our house. So that is something that I enjoy doing. Hosting doesn't stress us out. It doesn't bring any like extra added anxiousness on our side. Like we just do it. But doing it also provides me with the ability to be like, my kids are going to bed. Okay. And obviously not everyone can do that, but just kind of give like some ideas of like how you can navigate it differently. I just overall think that it's okay to take a step back and try to figure out, how can I adjust this? How can I make this work? How can I make them happy? How can I make sure I'm happy? How can I make sure I'm not going to piss off my kids at the end of the day and just make this a super anxious experience? Because like that takes the fun out of it and no one wants to do that. And once you've made it through all your holiday stuff, you go home, which can be a
daunting task in itself. I do know that even for me, I feel like coming home is a very, like, I can't really explain what feeling I'm trying to say, but there's stuff everywhere, right? Like, because we leave Christmas Day, it's just like a lull kind of happens, and it's like a new sort of chaos enters your brain where you're like, okay, now the holidays are over. I have to get everything back to normal. And I just like think it's important to take a step back and realize that it's going to take some time to get back to normal. And if you did a ton of traveling and you were with a grandparent who said yes to everything, right? Like, there's going to be a little bit of a period where you have to kind of get your kids back in the zone of like, no, we don't stand on the counter and eat Oreos, or no, we don't watch movies until 9:30, and we don't make s'mores every day, or whatever they were doing, right? And whatever they were eating, or however they're like, all those things are different. Holidays are different, even in our own home. Like, I'm not blaming grandparents. Like, even in our own home, there's more treats and there's more flexibility, and we stay up later, and there's more, popcorn on the couch, and, sleeping in and all this stuff. And now you're getting back to the zone. So I think getting back to the zone, the best way to do that is just get back into it as quickly as you can, but also while knowing that it's going to take time. Like, there are going to be days once you're back at that, let's say they've been staying up late and you're back to that 7 o'clock bedtime, there's going to be a period where they're coming in and out of their room, or they're talking, or you hear them, doing things. And you just have to know, like, this is not their fault. Okay. They are tired. They probably have had 4 weeks of straight chaos, and you're trying to get them back into like a structured mental space, and it's going to take time. So just go into it knowing, like, it's okay. It's normal that, they're taking time to get into this place because it took them time to get out of it. And it also was happening at school, and it was happening everywhere around them. So just give them grace and give yourself grace, but also just know that I promise it will go back to normal. All right, you guys submitted some questions regarding holiday travel and sleep, so I'm going to go through a couple of them. The first one is, should I let my baby skip naps to fit into holiday plans, or will that backfire? So this kind of goes back into what we kind of chatted about before, where you can skip naps if they're older, right? But if you have a little baby, you're not necessarily skipping naps. You just might be doing more frequent, shorter naps, if that makes sense. So that goes back to making sure you're manipulating those wake windows, you're avoiding that overtiredness, but you're also not following that set schedule. What's the best way to help my baby sleep on a plane or during a long car ride? So, my favorite way to do this was to kind of line up the flight with the feeding. Okay. So whenever we were taking off, I always tried to offer a feed. And the main reason for that is because of their ears, right? The sucking helps with the ear popping, but also the plane is like you're in a white noise machine. So as they're eating and that noise is happening and that those vibrations are going through them, mine all seem to just like pass out. If it wasn't like lined up perfectly with the nap, I you just didn't. You know what I mean? Like, you just kind of went with the flow and kind of tried to navigate, could you take them on a walk during while you're at the airport, like during your like waiting period? And if they're not falling asleep, right? Like, you're just zero options, just bring stuff with you and try to keep them distracted and occupied. But I would say like 100% have a full bottle ready or be prepared to nurse. I personally felt like nursing on the plane was really hard for me. It gave me anxiety. I felt like everyone around me was like judging me. Like, I don't know. The bottle just seemed easier. And the bottle was also easier because if I felt anxious about it, like, I could hand them to Jeff, right? And he could like help and like give me time to breathe and stuff. But round it all, like, just know, like, no one's judging you. I mean, I don't think, just from times that like I've been on a plane, like, you always hear people talking and they're just like, oh my gosh, that poor mom, or they feel bad because like 9 times out of 10 they've been there. So like, just don't let it stress you out. My baby gets overstimulated with all the holiday excitement. How do I help them wind down? I personally use Christmas movies all month long, okay? Because it's still something exciting, and it's something that they feel is special and holiday related, but they're also just like chilling out and they're laying there and they're snuggled up and it's not like go, go, go. You know, there are people that just like are constantly going places and doing all this Christmas stuff. And I just think that the kids truly cannot handle it. And that's where those behaviors are coming out. And it's just too chaotic. Like their brains genuinely cannot handle doing something outside of their home every single weekend. Like I don't know about you, but if I have things back to back, I want to shoot my brains out. Like everybody needs time at home and everybody needs like you want them being home. Like my biggest thing, and Jeff and I talk about this all the time, is like we want our kids to remember home, right? Like they're not going to remember going to somewhere and like playing with like lights and reindeers. Like I know that's exciting and it's fun and I think it's okay to do every once in a while, but like I can confidently say just from where we're at right now, our kids' best memories are going to be home. It's going to be with neighbors, it's going to be with their friends and like all the things that we did here. It's not going to be places that we've taken them because it's overstimulating and I truly feel like they not that they don't remember it, but it gives their like they don't have the mental breaks there and it's exhausting and I think it takes everything away so that they just kind of like it pops out of their brain in a sense. So, I think that taking it a step back and realizing like it's okay not to do crazy things every single weekend or every single night and putting on a Christmas movie is going to be something that I personally feel like my kids are going to remember the most. And if you have a little one that you feel like, you've been dragging around and doing all these things, just the biggest thing that they need is that assistant shutting their brains off. Like they're obviously not going to go watch a Christmas movie. So, getting that warm bath on, taking them into a dark room with white noise. Honestly, I can't tell you how many times, even during like holiday dinners or something, I removed myself and I took a baby into a dark closet, played white noise on my phone, and just gave them that like mental break. And they either passed out, they started nursing, or whatever they did. It calmed them down and it gave them that a little bit of that like rejuvenation period to where they weren't like, what the heck is going on around me right now? Holiday parties run late, but my toddler wakes up at 5 a.m. no matter what. Do I just accept my fate? I would personally say you have a week or two, focus on it now. Like push out those early morning wakings. They're waking early because they're overtired and they're only going to get more overtired as the closer we get to Christmas. So really taking a step back and thinking like, okay, are they napping? What time are they getting up in the morning? If they're getting up at 5 a.m., their body is ready for bed at 5 p.m., right? Which is unrealistic. So we need to figure out where's that nap being placed in the day? How can you avoid that overtiredness before bedtime so that you're able to push out that early morning waking, and you really want to focus on that before the holidays get here so that you are able to let them stay up that one late night here coming soon and it's not going to affect them. But if they're in that routine of waking up at 5 a.m. every day, that is habitual. That is that overtiredness just piling up and now that's their new routine. So you want to focus on getting that pushed out before that late night comes so that you don't have to worry about that happening. How do I get my baby to nap when we're traveling and Aunt Linda won't stop pinching their cheeks? Okay, so this can go one of two ways. You can ask Aunt Linda for help. Be like, hey, it's time for them to go down. Do you want to feed them the bottle and rock them to sleep and hold them for an hour? Maybe, right? Maybe she'll say yes. If she says no and she's just wanting to communicate and talk, then it's okay to say, okay, I'm going to take him. It's time for his nap, but we'll come get you when he wakes up. Something super easy. Like just, you have to get up, remove yourself, even if that means going into a guest room, offering that feeding. Don't be afraid to just kind of make it stop without, you don't have to be like, hey, stop touching his cheeks, he's tired. Like, that doesn't need to happen. That like confrontation doesn't need to exist because she doesn't know what she's doing is affecting you or the baby. So nicely removing yourself from the situation or asking her to, quiet him down and get him to sleep can go a long way. My baby thinks the pack and play at grandma's is a baby prison. How do I get them to actually sleep in it? Okay, so a couple ways. First, making sure that grandma's room, wherever baby's sleeping, is dark, okay? If the room is dark and you're doing your bedtime routine and you're laying them into that pack and play, there really shouldn't be so much of a like, oh my gosh, you're putting me in there, right? Because they can't see it. You're doing your normal routine. All of those things are signals to them that they're going to bed. There might be a little bit fight right there at bedtime, but it shouldn't be anything too significant. Another thing you can do is start using the pack and play at home, okay? A week, let's say, before you guys go on your trip, put the pack and play in the baby's room. Once again, everything has to be dark so that they're not noticing like you're putting me in here versus over there, and just start getting them used to that. A lot of pack and plays are uncomfortable. So some of them come with mattresses, or you can order mattresses that are safe for sleep. So you can look into something like that too to maybe see if like the difference in texture or softness from their crib is playing a part. But that is definitely something that you can do. It doesn't have to be a full week in advance, even if it's just a couple nights to expose them to that. We'll kind of get them set up for that situation that's coming. That's all the questions that we're going to do. I hope that overall this was helpful to you. If you feel that you need more information or more support, head over to Instagram. We're constantly posting this week about holiday sleep, holiday travel. We will also be sending out a free holiday guide that you guys can have and download and access for when you're on the go and before you leave for your vacations. I hope that everyone has a wonderful Christmas, and we will talk soon.
And as always, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Give this video a like if you found it helpful, or share with a friend. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and we'll see you next time.